actual silence on what's happened in Myanmar, which is happening with Chinese complicity. So it is not driven by a need to manage China while also recognizing Chinese economic independence. It's really to say the right things to India, but actually do nothing. And what so much of what this administration does is not driven by national security interests, but rather personal and familial financial interests. And I think so. This is, I think, a very big difference between the Trump administration and what we might expect from a Biden administration.
That's interesting. That's interesting the way you're putting it. You're in a sense providing us, dare I say, some kind of a cautionary, if not a wake-up call, that we need to be cautious, particularly with the Trump administration. But Amitabh Mattu, does it go therefore well beyond just a Trump administration? The fact is the US wants to regain influence in the Indo-Pacific region. The fact is India wants to check China's growing influence in this part of the world, and therefore our interests converge, as they may well within Australia, which is also concerned about China, as they will with Japan. So has the possibility now come for a stronger Quad possibly, and India, US become two principal poles in a way that bring this Quad together with China as their principal concern?
Rajdeep, in some ways what Christine Fair is saying is true, that we should not become a pawn in the instrument of American foreign policy. I think China is a concern for us, quite independent from what America might do, what Trump might do, or what Biden might do. After all, some people argue that China is a Frankenstein's monster created by American capitalism. The level of dependence that most countries have, all this talk about supply chains, it's really an instrument of profit maximizing of American capitalism. But inasmuch as there is a convergence of values, democracies, respect for human dignity and rights, and also this common threat, clearly India has to work with the United States, has to work with Australia, has to work with Japan, keeping in mind that ultimately you should retain the independence to make critical decisions about war and peace. What I disagree with Christine Fair is in assuming that Biden's policies are going to be more assertive. It's true that Trump is unpredictable and erratic often, but there is a method behind his unpredictability and erraticism as well. However, Biden we might have a much more subtle and nuanced policy for which we'll need to customize our own policies if we have to work with them. Because I think this old phrase of congagement, containment plus engagement, is the kind of policies that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris might follow while trying to contain China, recognizing that there is an economic relationship and trying to work out how you manage that economic relationship. In some ways, India faces a similar dilemma. You continue, as someone pointed out, that ever since Galwan happened, ever since the Wuhan spread the pandemic around the world, India-China trade has actually increased. There is this contradiction built into a relationship that most countries have with China, which is unlike the United States and the Soviet Union, which didn't have the level of complex interdependence as China and has with most countries in Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America. So it has to be a much more finessed approach. No doubt about the fact that Xi Jinping is the most authoritarian, totalitarian leader since Mao. Every citizen of China has to read Xi's thoughts, and Xi is systematically marginalizing and perpetuating genocide in Western China, whether it's within Tibet or with the Uyghurs and in Xinjiang. I think there's no doubt about the fact that Xi is going to remain the most authoritarian leader for some more time to come within Asia. So we have to confront that reality, recognizing, however, there are nuances, there are other factors which are going to perhaps limit the degree of confrontation that you can take.
So Meera Shankar, are we at a stage where post-Galwan in particular, you know, the bromance, the romance with China is over. The Modi-Xi romance that we saw in Mamallapuram and other, you know, other summits stretching back to Ahmedabad in 2014-15 is over. And we have a real politique that recognizes that perhaps this is the moment where our interests converge with the United States, and engagement or containment and engagement is the way forward at the moment. Contain China, engage with the United States is perhaps the way forward. Do you believe that the last 6 months have finally forced us to wake up to this reality of an expansionist China?
Yes, I think we now have a more realistic approach towards China and its, you know, potential for doing damage to us. Some of the
but can we see the United States, sorry to intervene, can we see the United States as a trusted ally in this process?
Look, so as I said, some of the rhetoric about China was a bit delusional to start with, because they were always, you know, elements of an adversary in the relationship that we had with them, because we had an unsettled border and no agreement on where the line of actual control lies. Mm-hmm. So, you know, per se, there was an element of tension and uncertainty about the relationship. As far as the United States is concerned, they recognize the challenge that China poses to them as the primary challenge that the United States faces at this stage, both in the economic, technological, and strategic realm. Mm-hmm. But I think all the countries concerned, whether it's Australia, Japan, you were talking about the Quad, have equities in China, even as they have concerns in China. So it's a slightly more complex situation, and we have to wait and see.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.